MetsMusings has been named one of the top 15 Mets podcasts by FeedSpot.com. Go check it out. We're number 9.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. I hope everybody had a great week out there. It's so nice to be back with you again. We had a guest scheduled for this week, but due to the hurricane, his electricity was knocked out, and he has not gotten it back yet. So we are just gonna wing it with a show. But I got a special edition, a little extra add-on. So stay tuned for that. The big news this week, of course, is Joannis Sespades opting out, claiming for COVID-19 reasons. Different stories going about. His mother was here and supposedly, and she's elderly, so he got afraid with the COVID-19. Of course, the next day he was seen at the Roosevelt Field Mall, I think it was, and didn't seem too concerned about COVID-19 then. Who knows? And then there was a story that he called the Mets, he let them know, but the Mets claim not. I don't know if I'm going to know the truth behind this. He was concerned about playing time, which could be another thing, and he used the COVID-19 as an excuse. But who knows? People upset, and one of them that's upset is our good friend Sean, a voicemail from all the way from England. So let's play that now, and then we'll talk some more.
Hey Gary, it's Sean in Bristol, UK. How are you, my friend? It's been a while. I hope all is okay. I just wanted to say, add about the Joannis Sespades fiasco. What can you say? Right. I understand, it's your safety, and, the worry about COVID and stuff like that, but really that you don't pick up the phone while people are trying to reach out to you? Right. I get it. 2015, absolutely fantastic. His batting and everything pretty much powered the Mets to a World Series, but since then, what can I say? I'm not a fan of him. He's got the skill.
And we seem to have lost Sean. So
Hey Gary, it's Sean in Bristol, UK. How are you, my friend? It's been a while. I hope all is okay. I just wanted to say, add about the Joannis Sespades fiasco. What can you say? Right. I understand, it's your safety, and, the worry about COVID and stuff like that, but really that you don't pick up the phone while people are trying to reach out to you? Right. I get it. 2015, absolutely fantastic. His batting and everything pretty much powered the Mets to a World Series, but since then, what can I say? I'm not a fan of him. He's got the skills, or he did have, but not so much now. And I think he should just gently retire into the ether of baseball retirement and sit on the huge wad of money that he's made over the last few years. As for the Mets this year, I'm sorry, Gary. Dare I say this? I've given up. No, that's too harsh. Well, I've got a huge portion of humble pie in the freezer. It's ready to come out because as soon as I rant about this team, they start going on a winning streak. But I'm already looking to next year's season. Am I being too harsh? I don't know, but I really do feel sorry for Jacob deGrom. He's the only decent thing that's going on in the team. All right, Gary. So my rant is over. Love your show, and take care, my friend. And speak to you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.
And thank you, Sean. It's good as always to hear from you. And I don't think you're being too harsh, or I think you're being too harsh on yourself. I think a lot of people are taking the year off and are not. You know, it's a weird year. Let's be honest about it. This whole pandemic thing, the 60-game schedule, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a baseball season at all. So and the start that the Mets have gotten off to, it all adds up. I don't think people are into it. They found other things to do. But it is what it is, and we have to go along with that. But I think there's a lot of people that are kind of giving up, and really, in a way, are using this to see who, some of the younger players and what they can do at this point in time, because it's just so crazy. And what can go on this year, we don't really know. So you're too hard on yourself. So far as Sespades, I don't think he will retire. I think he'll try to catch on with a team next year, depending upon what the deal is with the COVID-19. At that point in time, let's hope it's all over and done with. But I don't think the Mets should consider him at all. Going back, yes, he was good in 2015, and he was rewarded for that with this contract, and the contract's up, and I think it's time to move on from Joannis Sespades. So, but thanks again, Sean. It was great to hear from you as always. Well, we solved part of the mystery with Jed Lowry, who's also Mets career is probably over and done with. He was diagnosed with PCL laxity, which, according to GM Brody Van Wagenen's understanding, is a looseness of the PCL ligament in Lowry's left knee that is ultimately causing him pain. When he wears his larger brace, the pain is mitigated, and when he takes that brace off, plays in the smaller brace, the pain increases. He has been moved to the 45-day injury list, and that would essentially mean that his Mets career is over and done with. Let's see. Other news, bunch of moves. It's hard to keep up with the moves everybody's making because of injuries and whatnot. But Tyler Bashler was traded to the Pirates. Jordan Humphrey traded to the Giants for Billy Hamilton. Jarrett Hughes was activated all in this past week. You probably know that. Franklin Colomi was activated, sent down. I don't know where he is now. But everything is crazy with this short season. And the Mets have also acquired right-handed Ariel Girado from the Rangers in exchange for a player to be named later and cash considerations. Outfielder Ryan Cordell was designated for assignment to open a spot in the team's 40-man roster. Girado has been assigned to the Mets' alternate training site in Brooklyn. That could be a look towards next year and adding pitchers, another starting pitcher. Who knows what they've got up their sleeve. All right, what do I have up my sleeve? Well, let's take a quick break. And we will come back right after. Okay, and I'm back, and my surprise for you is that I've got an excerpt of an interview that I did with John Shea, who wrote the book 24. It is the life stories and lessons from the Say Hey Kid. It's about Willie Mays, and this section happens to deal with Willie Mays returning to New York as a New York Met.
Willie told me there were two regrets he had in life, and one was not going to college. He never really had that opportunity from the time he grew up and where he grew up, to play baseball in college or even football in college as a quarterback, because that's what he was. So he signed with the Giants, luckily, he played baseball. And so years later, he looks back at that as the obviously the right thing to do. But anyway, the other regret was being traded. And that was an immediate regret that lasted for a little bit. It didn't last forever because while he wanted to retire a Giant, he felt like he was going back home. And he had the close kinship with Joan Payson, who was a minority owner of the old New York Giants. And then when they moved, she just sold all her shares, didn't want any part of that, and always wanted to do two things: bring a National League team back to New York and have Mays on her team again. Well, she became the majority owner of the Mets and spoke with Horace Stoneham for quite a bit about bringing Mays back to New York. And it finally happened. I mean, obviously late in Willie's career, 1970, Willie was 40. And he was still a great ball player. He led the league in walks. He led the league in on-base percentage. He had 23 homers, or 18 homers. He had 23 steals, 26 attempts. So he could do it all, and he was still a great center fielder. But the following May, Stoneham trades him to the Mets because he said he couldn't afford his $165,000 salary. So he got Charlie Williams, who didn't really pan out, but so Mays goes to New York, and I spoke with a lot of Mets, Tom Seaver a long time ago, Kranepool, Kuzman, and they just spoke glowingly about Mays when he walked in the clubhouse, and the presence and the fact that we got this great ball player. And, this just, they won in '69, but they weren't all that good in the following years. In fact, in '73, in August, they were in last place in their division. And they just went crazy in September and won the division, beat the Reds, and then played the A's in the World Series. But if you look back, Mays was a part-time player with the Mets in '72 and '73. I mean, he actually led the Mets in OPS, which is on-base percentage plus slugging percentage. So it wasn't a bad year as a bench player. He played first base.
Played a lot of first base, yeah.
He played a lot of first base. Then the next year, Willie was fine calling it quits then. He said, but Joan Payson wanted him to play another year. And that was the worst year because of the injuries. He was never on the disabled list until his final year at age 42. Imagine that. I mean, Willie Mays was as durable as it gets. We talk about Cal Ripken, but Willie Mays has a record, 150 games for 13 straight seasons, 150 plus. Even Cal can do that. 150 plus games for 13 straight seasons. And most of that streak during the 154 game season. So he didn't take time off. He played both ends of the doubleheader. He played day games after night games. He just wanted to play. He played 9-10 innings in every All-Star game. Spring training, the managers always wanted him to play just so the fans could see him. He wore out quite a bit, but that was his thing. His dad always told him, work hard. And what he meant by that was play the game. Don't ask to come out. Don't have the manager pull you. So anyway, 1973 happens, and, Willie's got ribs, he's got shoulder, and he's got knee, and all needed a lot of work in the trainer's room. And he didn't even play after September 9th when he broke 2 ribs going for a ball as a first baseman, crashing into the, side and foul territory and messing up his ribs. So he didn't play again until the playoffs. And he figured, okay, I'm just going to – they had Willie Mays Day at Shea Stadium. He retired, tearjerker. Everybody was there. So anyway, you fast forward to the World Series, and he's starting center fielder. Game 1 is the number 3 hitter in Oakland. Oh, my God. And he gets a hit. He's 1 for 4. The Mets lose. But everybody remembers, and you brought it up at the beginning, Game 2. And that's the one that the Mets won in extra innings. And that's the one that Willie fell down. And that's the one that Willie's at his knees at home plate arguing with Augie Donatelli. And those were the images I knew. That's the only images I knew. I mean, I was old enough to remember '73, and I know about that series. I used to go to A's games as well. But I figured, well, everyone always says, don't be Willie Mays. Don't retire too late. Retire when you're on top. All this stuff, okay? So I said, well, I want to research this. So I talked to everybody I could on the Mets, everybody I could on the A's who were there that day. Got all these observations from Willie himself. And there's a lot of backstories to the images that we see. In other words, when Willie's on his knees, people say, oh, he must have struck out. He must have dropped the ball. No, he was arguing as the on-deck hitter with Augie Donatelli because he blew a ball at home plate that cost the Mets.
Yeah, Harrelson. I think Buddy Harrelson was scored and it looked like he beat the tag, and Willie was I believe he was the on-deck hitter.
He was the on-deck hitter, and that's why he was closest to the plate, and he wasn't complaining to the umpire because of something he did. He was supporting Bud Harrelson because Harrelson was safe. Fosse missed the tag, though Fosse told me he tagged him out in the book, so you get both sides, obviously. And so that kind of explains that picture. And there's the playing center field. He botched a play or two. Well, he is 42. If he did that when he was 22, people would have forgotten it and moved on. But now he's older, so people remember it. But again, he hardly played after September. But Rusty Staub had a bum shoulder in game 1, so he's playing center field and hitting third. Game 2, he doesn't start, but goes in for Rusty as a pinch runner, stays in the game, and actually goes out to right field because that was Rusty's position. Yogi didn't tell him where to play. And then he and Don Hahn are both out there in right field together. And they both look in the dugout. So who's playing center? And they signal Willie, you go play center. I said, okay. So sure enough, Darren Johnson of the A's hits this soft line drive over the infield. And Willie comes in, tries to make a shoestring catch and falls over. The ball goes back to the wall. And later in the game, Reggie hits a ball all over him and he loses it in the sun. So I wanted to do the research. And I said, okay, what really happened? What caused these things? And it wasn't, Willie Mays was old as much as, I don't want to make excuses for Mays, but.
No, because I know where you're going with this. I've talked to Crane Pool a number of times. I've talked to a couple of the other guys. And go ahead.
Well, Reggie played center field for the A's that day. We had known him as a right fielder, but he played center field in game 2 of the 73 World Series. And he told me that was the most brutal sun he's ever seen. And Oakland was always a bad sun. And Willie had never played in Oakland, even though he played all those years at Candlestick, just because there was no interleague play and they didn't have any preseason Bay Bridge series or anything like that. The A's didn't come until 69. So anyway, there's the sun, there's the fact that he hadn't played, there's the fact he was injured, there's the fact that there was a miscommunication. He didn't even know he was going to play center field because Yogi didn't tell him, and on and on and on. But everybody who was there just says, hey man, don't knock Willie. It's just kind of tough circumstances. And retire early. I mean, I talked to Ricky Henderson, who's playing independent ball in his mid-40s. All these fellows who played deep into their 40s, and they all told me, said, man, don't give up the game. It doesn't matter if you're Willie Mays in his prime. If you're Willie Mays at 75% of the old Willie Mays, you're still pretty darn good and a valuable asset. And that's what Cranepool and Kuzman and Seaver told me. That you don't want to disregard Mays. But anyway, that's kind of what some people remember of that World Series, even though it might have been unfair. And Willie doesn't make excuses, but, there are reasons for the images that we see. And there's a backstory to everything. And I think that's what we try to present in that chapter.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little excerpt of the interview that I did with John Shea. I'll have a link to the full interview when I figure out where it's going to go. So stick with me if you want to hear the full interview. We talk about the whole career of Willie Mays. It's really a terrific book and a terrific interview, so I hope you'll go check it out. 3 groups are still in the running to buy the New York Mets, with a timeline that calls to Citi Field tours this week and initial bids requested by the end of the month. The 3 groups are no secret: Steve Cohen, who earlier withdrew an initial bid for the team, and a group led by A-Rod and Jennifer Lopez, and Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, which also owns the NHL's New Jersey Devils and the NBA Philadelphia 76ers separately. David Blitzer is a part owner of the International League Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders ownership. Each brings a different strength to the Mets ownership, and each also has the a weakness, as the New York Post did an analysis on this by Josh Kosman, and he argues that the lack of winning from the Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment-owned teams may be an issue moving forward, as the organization's teams have never won NHL or NBA championships. True, but both teams are contenders on an annual basis, but the bigger error is assuming MLB owners really care about Harris Blitzer building contenders, or whether they can run a solid drama-free front office in a fiscally responsible manner. There are plenty of problems with the other two bids. Cohen has had issues with the SEC, and his asset management firm has been sued by two separate women on charges of discrimination. And, of course, A-Rod and J-Lo, really, the question with them is going to be money. Do they have enough capital raised and enough capital in their group to not only buy the team, but to then support a team and help it go further forward? So we see, according to this article, that the Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment bid would be a very safe choice for the Wilpons in a Mets sale. I kind of disagree. I think Steve Cohen would be a kind of a safer choice, but with his problems with the SEC and everything, will that hurt? Keep in mind, he was approved already as a minority owner, so I don't see why it will not happen that he couldn't be the majority owner. I don't think he'll be in any more problems. And a lot of time businessmen get in trouble like that, and it's not really anything that's their fault. Sometimes the courts like to flex their muscles, and don't know where that went to, take these guys into court. So, but we'll see how that all shakes out, and it's getting closer with the end of the I'm jumping ahead of myself. The end of the Wilpon era seems to be upon us, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So we'll see what happens as we go along. It's going to be interesting, more interesting than this baseball season is. That's for sure. And I had another story, and I can't find where it was. Here we go. So it is what it is. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Hope you enjoyed the interview with John Shea, the excerpt of an interview. And I want to thank my guest, John Shea, for coming on this week. It was really a great interview and a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun doing it. So I hope I'll get to you in the future and let you know where the full interview will be heard. And I want to thank you all for listening. So don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Apple Play, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast, or subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, folks. It helps me to grow the show and expand to new listeners. And until next time, remember, keep the faith, stay optimistic. See, stayed optimistic, and the sign is holding up. A little bent, but it's holding. And let's go Mets, and I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.